What's up? This is the Pedal Dance Podcast. Thank you for tuning in with, of course, myself, Crystal, with my co-host, um, Chris and Ty. And
Hello.
Greetings.
yep, and today's topic, um, yeah, apology ahead of time. I know this is probably dated by now, but we're
Very.
actually gonna talk about the Detective Pikachu movie. There's just been a lot of complications in schedule. I will take faults for put off seeing it, not purposefully, but long story short, we all have seen the movie, and now all of our schedules are now in sync for this podcast. So, without further ado, Ty, how should we talk about Detective Pikachu?
Okay, well, in my opinion, whenever I first went to the theaters, and we may get into spoiler alerts later, but I'll try to be weary of those. But no, so whenever I first went to the theater, I was just absolutely taken away with all the imagery and the scenery of being able to see Pokemon in a real life aspect for what's probably one of the first times they've ever done so. You see these Pokemon. Not only are they probably mostly just CGI or what have you, but they're realistic, but they're moving around, they're interacting with the humans, and like just seeing that was like a dream come true. It was just, and it was really stunning to me, and my inner child just had me crying upon just seeing all that in action. And then instantly it goes right from that into a comedy bit where the main character is trying to catch a Cubone, and they're making jokes. And it's just a funny scene. It's a very
Well,
funny scene,
Cubone
and it takes
didn't
your
find it
mind
too
off of
funny.
that. What was it?
I said, well, Cubone didn't find it too funny.
No, Cubone did not.
Which, on a side note, my partner and I found it really hilarious that they referenced the dead mommy skull trivia of Cubone.
Yeah, I know that was a shocker to me too, but I absolutely loved it. It was great. So but yeah, so that kind of took my mind off my inner child for a minute and really kind of got me in the setting and the in preparation for the movie itself. And so yeah, one of the first things one of the first things I would like to acknowledge though is the Apom chase, because the Apom chase is one of the first scenes to happen. And with the Apom chase, they had that the gas or what have you. Uh, Now the gas, that is a reference actually to the video game, because I am the only one of us three that has played the video game. So that's when you first start seeing the plot line in reference to the video game is with that gas. Uh, However, I don't remember it being Apom in the video game, or at least not that many. So, and there wasn't a big dramatic chase scene like there was in the film. In the video game, it was pretty drawn back, like intensely, because I mean, it's a video game, it's an RPG. They can only do so much. Um, so yeah, but the storyline pretty much follows the video game, not exactly to a T, but really, really similar. Really similar. So that's the best way I can really put that. Now there are a couple of scenes I do want to call out on Ryan Reynolds. Okay, because he's the one who voiced the Pikachu. Okay, so in the world of Pokemon, um, potty jokes aren't something that typically gets made. Well, Ryan Reynolds, he basically did that when he voiced Pikachu. He did implicate that into the Pokemon movie, which is the very first time it's ever been done. Okay, so I'm not really sure how I feel about that.
In
Uh,
America, we should throw that in America.
yeah, in America, potty jokes are a thing that that get a sense of humor. They're related to. It's also known as toilet humor. Um, he makes this remark that he peed himself a little or what have you. That is exactly the remark I'm referring to. And then there's also another one where Pikachu is trying to use a move, but he uses potty jokes instead of actually performing the move that he was trying to use. And yeah, that's basically what I'm attacking right there. Is that the fact it's never been done before in a Pokemon movie? This was the first time that that has been implicated, and I don't know if it was because of the scriptwriters or if it was improv done by Ryan Reynolds or what have you. But for whatever reason, it's in the movie. So, you can nitpick that whichever way you like. Are you in favor of it? Are you against it? I am personally not a fan, but
I
so
am personally going to agree to disagree. I loved that. I love that they cast. I think that was one of the best moves they made. For them casting Ryan Reynolds as Pikachu and just kind of bring in a little bit of that Deadpool humor into it. I personally was a fan of that, but I can see why some people wouldn't be a fan of that. Like I totally get it.
yeah, and that's the other thing. I'm not dissing Ryan Reynolds. I'm just dissing the sense of humor that was approached. I think it could have gone better, but that's just my personal opinion. Chris, did you have anything you'd like to add on that behalf, or should I move on to the next topic?
Uh, I'm not really against it or for it. It happened. It's just it is what it is.
Yeah.
It just didn't bother me because it's just something I've grown used to over time. So yeah, even though it's the first time it ever happened in the Pokemon franchise, it's still something that I've seen so much of. It just didn't bother me.
Okay. So with that being said, we'll go ahead and we'll move on to the next topic. The next topic that I would like to discuss with the Detective Pikachu movie is in Pokemon, uh, people have kind of divided their own religious-based aspects in the movie. We have two religious aspects, one known as Muism, one known as Arceism. Muism, self-explanatory. Mew is the creator of the Pokemon world. Arceism, Arceus is the name, is pretty much the name of the Pokemon that creates the universe, or what have you. Uh, so moving on from that, uh, there were two things I would like to bring up as well, in which Ryan Reynolds voicing Pikachu, he did say "Oh my God" in one of the phrases. Okay, but then he proceeds to talk about Arceus and another. So like he references both a god and Arceus into this movie, and that could also be somewhat controversial to a degree, depending on what stance you are. So yeah, let's discuss that one.
So, I guess the mutism in the movie is out of my memory at this point, but I loved the scene. I just cracked up laughing when Detective Ryan Reynolds Pikachu said Arceus damn it, and or Arceus damn it, sorry, the pronunciation of that Pokemon has been flipped over time, but that's a whole nother discussion. But I just cracked up laughing just because that's viewed as the mainstream Poke religion in that movie. But of course, my memory sucks. Did they reference Lord
No,
Helix?
they didn't do Lord Helix, and they didn't do Muism. I guess Lord Helix is probably another one that I forgot about. Thank you for bringing that in.
He's a
So
false prophet.
I'm sorry, I'm a fan of the dome fossil, not the helix.
Aw.
Agree. No, I'm dome all the way.
I love Kabutops. I'm sorry. so, so yeah.
Anybody who follows Lord Helix, you follow a false prophet.
I like them,
Sorry.
but I wouldn't follow either one of them. Not really in my love. But now we're just bashing religion. But
Fan base one. Anyway,
But yeah, Chris, did you have an opinion on the religious involvement?
I can't remember. I don't remember that.
Like, it
I
was
do remember.
very small. It wasn't really a huge part of the plot or anything.
Yeah, it was just 2 scenes. But I do remember you telling me that you were that you weren't too thrilled with the pronunciation that Ryan Reynolds did for Arceus, because he didn't say Arceus, he said Arceus.
Yes, it's not Arceus, it's flippin' Arceus. I will fight anybody who says Arceus. Ugh! Okay, we're gonna have to do I'm saying this right now in a podcast later on, I'm doing a video about pronunciation of Pokemon names.
You should. Because you get on to
And
me about that too.
both of you are going to be in it.
Aw, but I suck at that. You
He's
always,
gonna make
Especially
an example out
Crystal.
of us.
you always criticize me for, I'm going to purposely do this, Toga Demaru.
You actually
Well,
said it right.
Oh, really? I
Yeah.
want to say it wrong.
The one time you're gonna say it wrong, you say it right. Oh, very
See,
definitely.
she's learning. That's how it works. So.
So I think I'm saying it wrong to make it actual right. Okay, that's how I flow then. So
Oh,
it must be Rayquaza then, but
it is
yeah.
Rayquaza.
Oh
That's
crap!
what it is in the movie.
I thought I heard a lot of people say Rayquaza. You know what? We're getting off topic.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are. Okay, but that's okay. I just wanted to bring that aspect in there because it was a thing that happened, and honestly, I don't really like the idea of mentioning a real life deity in such a film, because Pokemon has always been known to be like international, and it's because of that reason that I think that could be a conflict. So that's the only reason I wanted to bring attention to it, because I thought it was important. So anyway, so moving on from that, I think this is when we're going to start getting into the spoilers. All right, so there's a scene where the entire time that they're walking through this lab trying to find evidence, they're actually on the back of a Torterra. Like there's these giant Torterras, and they never knew it was an actual Pokemon or what have you. And it cuts to it cuts to some scenes after that where they're in the river. They're
Oh, and
completely
I just
exhausted.
added something. It is not just the main character in Detective Pikachu. Now it's also another protagonist. I don't remember her name, but it's her and her Pokemon, which is my favorite character in the movie, Psyduck. So it's
Ah,
not just.
yeah,
So I just
you're absolutely right. So the protagonist, uh, which is Tim Goodman, uh, he's got this female protagonist with him, and you were absolutely right. I can't remember her name either. I am so terrible. It's okay. I'll get the Blu-ray when it comes out on the 6th. But so yeah, so it's basically those two humans and their two Pokemon, the Pikachu and the Psyduck. They're in the river. They're pretty much exhausted at this point, and they come face to face with Mewtwo, which is kind of obvious at this point. And from there, the Morlo, they do their thing. They get help. Before Morlo, the Bulbasaur actually comes in, and the Bulbasaur is what helps them. So yeah, and then from there we'll move on. We'll go ahead and move on. We'll move on to the city. Let's go ahead and move on to the city. Okay. Now, another concept that they did in the video game was that they had this gas that turns Pokemon rampant. They had this gas inserted in the balloons. Well, they still initiated that concept in the movie, but instead of them being regular party balloons, they are parade balloons. This is a huge difference, let me tell you. So that was really cool. And towards the end of it, or what have you, we're just going to go to the absolute end because that's the only scene I could really talk about in the next. At the very end of the scene, there we have uh, Tim, and he's finally meeting his dad for the first time that we can see in the film. And his dad, of course, is played by none other than Ryan Reynolds. And uh, based on the video game. On the video game, okay, that was a conspiracy. They never actually did that in the video game. They never introduced Tim's dad in the video game. It was just, after Pikachu pretty much saved the world, it kind of went off and did its own thing, went straight to the credits. And there was this controversy, rumor that, well, wait a second, the Pikachu was the dad all along, wasn't he? Wasn't he? Well, this movie confirms that. And that was just so satisfying. So, and also, you'll notice that Pikachu, he officially stops using his human voice, and he goes back to just talking like a normal Pikachu after Tim's father is back in the picture.
So I think we're leaving a lot of stuff out just because most of that stuff is spoiler.
Well, because most of it's spoiler, I don't really have a lot to say on the rest of it because it wasn't controversial. It didn't really stand out as much as, but I tried to mention in detail some of what I thought were important aspects or changes or new to the Pokemon world. But a lot of it from the Pokemon world is something you would expect. Okay, it's everything you'd expect. I know there's a lot of Pokemon that I could mention that were featured in the film. I know I could have analyzed the Pokemon balloons because you'll notice. Oh yeah, I should actually mention the parade balloons. So, the realistic Pokemon, they look quite different than the way they're drawn, right? But these parade balloons, they resemble the drawings more than they do the realistic forms. I am a little curious what y'all thought of that.
Crystal?
I am so sorry. Skype cut out for me. I know you were talking about realistic. What? I'm sorry, Skype did cut out. What was that?
Okay, so what I was saying was the realistic forms, they do look rather different than the counterparts on the artistic style of things. But these parade balloons, they looked more like the Pokemon that have been drawn for years, more than they did their realistic counterparts. How do you feel about that?
Oh, well, that's just one of those things in the movie that didn't really catch my radar, that didn't really bother me, but now knowing that, I think that it's a little funny.
I know, right? Like that's the whole concept. It didn't really bug me all that well either, but upon realizing that, it's like, well, wait a second. Something doesn't register with me on these balloons, and that was exactly what I was thinking the whole time I was watching it. So
Has either of you ever played Super Smash Brothers?
yes.
No, not at all. Sorry, sarcasm.
Noted.
Crystal? So let's start with me. But seeing those balloons just reminded me of the Pokefloat stage on Super Smash Brothers. That was the first thing that I thought of when I saw those big balloons. It was like Pokefloat stage in Super Smash Brothers.
It's kind of funny you mentioned that. I was thinking that myself too, especially when they were battling on some of those.
Exactly.
And one of them was a Lugia. I found that ultimately satisfying because it reminded me of the movie Power of Us.
The Power of Us.
Yeah, featuring Zero Aura.
Oh, okay. One I haven't seen.
Oh,
Okay.
It's very new. I think the newest so far.
Yes, yeah. As far as I know, it's not as new as the live action first movie that they produced in Japan, but it is the newest movie that they've aired here in the States.
Well, that or Detective Pikachu. I can't remember, but
It was, well, yeah, you're right. Okay, so the newest animated movie that they put in the States. Because technically Detective Pikachu is a live action.
Okay, just one question. Are we not going to go over like the villains in the movie because that's spoiler or what?
I think
Okay, so
I don't
okay,
think we should worry about spoilers just because almost anyone who's listening to this podcast has most likely seen the movie by now. Or when in doubt, we can always just say major spoiler alert if they're considering the DVD for their first.
or
Uh,
Blu-ray.
yeah, or illegally streaming it online, whichever. Um, which, of course, since we're on YouTube with this, so we do not endorse illegally streaming. Um, that's all I'm going to say about that.
Stares at you intensely. So, anyway, but
What was our train of thought?
okay, so our train of thought was Chris to discuss the villains, and I probably should go over them. So we have Roger Clifford. I remember that name quite well, mostly because of the video game. Uh, so we have Roger Clifford, and in turn, he's actually been the villain all along. Major spoiler, by the way. I know it's too late to say that now, but yeah. So he's been the villain this entire time, and there was a very interesting concept to his particular takeover. One of which that had not been mentioned in the video game at all. Okay, his takeover concept was quite different. Um, because in the video game, they just had the gas and the Pokemon were running rampant, and that was a huge problem because they weren't listening. But with the live action film Detective Pikachu, instead of using just the gas, he goes a step further, and he talks about how this gas allows these Pokemon to merge with their human owners. So after he releases the gas upon the city, the Pokemon and the human become one, and they take on the Pokemon form. Uh, that honestly is a furry. That is like the coolest thing ever. I am totally for that. I want that to be a real life concept. It probably won't happen in a million years, but to others, I'm sure that that was a very disturbing thing, and I would love to get y'all's opinions on that.
Well, just for the fact to me personally, the fact that that wasn't even part of the original game story, I think is really cool. So, and there was just one thing that really bugged me. I think I talked to you both about this, but go ahead and let Crystal give her opinion.
So yeah, I thought that was a very unique concept. Like the villain was thinking he was doing everyone a favor, um, with his plan, but it was a little bit weird, a little hilarious. I liked it, and I feel like it also extended on a concept that Ash Greninja introduced, like
Mhm.
Pokemon trainer becoming one, and this kind of took it in the most literal sense.
That is true. Now that I think about that, you make a valid point. Uh, but yes, now I do understand though the reason why he was doing this in the first place was he was trying to increase longevity longevity for humans that may have not been in their best medical condition.
Well, not only just that, he was forcing it on every single human, regardless of their health condition, just to give them. I can't remember if it's longer lives or everlasting lives through Pokemon.
Well, as they mentioned earlier, though, with the Cubone scene, clearly the Pokemon do not have that much of a longevity either. But how it compares to the humans, I am not 100% sure. Um, but so yeah, there's just a lot of factors to be taken there, and
And just to extend on that, I'm not really sure how valid it is that every single Pokemon can outlive humans naturally. Just because that's kind of the assumption the villain made. Like if we have to think about the real life animals they're modeled after,
mhm.
um, like the first thing that pops in my mind is an Incada line. Like cicadas
Oh yeah.
just molt out of their shells to fly off, and I was told they only live like up to 2 weeks or something like that.
Oh wow, yeah, that's absurd.
Okay, well here's a question.
Okay.
How are all the ghost type Pokemon actually Pokemon then?
Well, that reminds me of that particular scene where they're doing the cage battles or what have you,
Should have
and
known
they
you were going to
have
bring that.
Charizard versus Gengar. Um, that was a very interesting perspective on Gengar because that's not one that we're used to seeing, and it does make you wonder. But we can't be 100% sure about anything at this point in time because, like, that's up to them. We don't know if they're going to reiterate the abilities of these Pokemon, their Pokedex entries, or what have you. We don't really know how that plays a scene
Wait a minute, wait a
for the
minute, wait a
live
minute, wait a minute.
action.
Hold up. You said Gengar versus Charizard. Wasn't it Gengar
Well,
versus Blastoise?
I could be wrong. Because I remember the scene mostly for the Charizard. I thought that it was the Charizard that faced off against the Gengar, but you could be right.
Or
But
I know multiple battles happened. Do you think they Gengar battled both of them?
I don't know,
well,
because if that was the case, then why would Charizard be coming out of the cage?
well, see, I thought it was Charizard because Charizard and Pikachu had their battle, and I believe that was after the battle of Gengar, and that's why I thought it was the Charizard. But like I said, I could be wrong. I'll get the Blu-ray and we'll figure that out. I've only seen it once. I'm not one of those people who can afford to go to the movies multiple times watching the same movie. So don't
Right.
judge me, audience.
But just beware, the best part of that whole scene is whenever Detective Pikachu kicks the Magikarp.
Yep, that was my favorite.
Yes.
Kicks it, nothing happens, then all of a sudden, BAM! Gyarados.
That okay, wait. Okay, yeah, that's right. Because he does battle the Gyarados. Now you got me thinking if it was a Gyarados that he battled with. Because I knew he battled with Charizard because it was in the trailer. But he also had to battle with Gyarados. You're right. So yeah. Anyway,
Okay, so here's another topic, somewhat topic for the movie. And this is just going to be a personal opinion type topic, okay?
okay.
Ty and Crystal. Are you there?
No,
Yes.
no.
We've talked about this in the past, but I just wanted to bring it up in this video. Personal nitpicks with this movie.
Okay.
Who wants to lead that discussion first?
Well, I mean, I only have one nitpick, but it really bothered the heck out of me. Ty, did you have any nitpicks?
I think I already addressed all mine.
Okay, when you were giving your, yeah, okay. Crystal, do you want to go or do you want me to go?
Since you only have one, I'll let you go. I have a butt ton, but I'll keep it to the major nitpicks. But you can go first.
All right, my major nitpick, it might not be major to either of you or to anybody listening, all five of them, but to me, this was a major nitpick. Whenever, oh, Ty, main bad guy's
Yes.
name, what's his name?
That would be Roger Clifford.
Yeah, whenever Roger decides to merge with the Mewtwo. Whenever he started talking in Mewtwo's body, Mewtwo actually moved his mouth to talk. That is not Mewtwo. Mewtwo talks telepathically. That bothered the heck out of me, and I complained about it the entire time home. I am serious when I say this bothered me so bad. That is not Mewtwo. And I get it that it's still it's still the human inside of Mewtwo, so it's not fully Mewtwo himself, but still, don't do that. That just ruined Mewtwo for me for that movie. If you're gonna do something like that, then don't do it at all. But yeah, that's my little nitpick.
Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, though, in the first movie, I could have sworn that Mewtwo had actually been moving his mouth for part of the entire time. We just never really could see it because of how the way his face is portrayed on the 2D animation style. But on top of that, you're right though. He does communicate telepathically, but he does also have the ability to move his jaw. And if you actually watch the first movie, you
Yeah,
will
yeah,
see
he
that.
has the ability to move his jaw and open his mouth and stuff. But even then, if you watch the first movie, his mouth is completely open and he's still talking. It's not like he's actually making the movements. His mouth is just either open or shut when he's talking, not like moving his lips like we are now talking.
Yeah, I know. So that would have to be the humanized aspect that they had added into Mewtwo, because maybe the human isn't as in tune with Mewtwo's power enough to be able to talk telepathically. So maybe that's why he's moving his jaw.
I think just in the first movie, it's more just like for facial expressions than it is actually moving his jaw to talk.
Yeah, but once they merge bodies anyway, the whole thing becomes like a mystery dungeon setting.
Lame.
Hey, I love Mystery Dungeon.
Yeah, I
And
would
you're
have to
lame
back
too.
those games too.
And
So
you're both lame as heck.
I'm judging you intensely right now.
You judge
yeah,
me every day.
severely.
You both judge me every day. So what's new?
Judge, 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 judge.
Judy. But
Tearing you down.
Stop judging me with your judgment, dang it.
this
More
is our
judgment.
Pokemon attack, so we can
Ha.
use it. So I guess we'll go to my nitpicks.
Sure.
Go for it.
Okay, so the first thing that bothered me probably more than it should have when they were being chased by the Greninja and they were trying to get Psyduck to have a headache to release some kind of psychic attack.
And here I was thinking that was just Misty's side. That was so funny.
Okay, so Greninja is part dark, immune to psychic moves, and there you have Psyduck using a powerful psychic-like attack, and it blows away the Greninja completely. I'm not okay with that. As someone who's very into types representing what they should represent, no, the Greninja should have been immune and they all should have died, but, But no, they could have just used like a water attack or something. Not very effective. It's better than immune completely. But that was just my little anger at them. And oh yeah, Ty, when you were going over the Torterra scene, I was just thinking how that could have been like a small little introduction to Dynamax or Gigantamaxing, but I know, different concept. I thought that was just maybe a possible shout out. But oh yeah, so my next nitpick. Well, did y'all have any opinion on that nitpick about the Psyduck or
No, you were absolutely right. I'm more surprised I didn't think of that myself. That is truly bothersome.
Either that, or they're from the island of giant Pokemon like in the anime.
Or maybe there's a plot twist here. Maybe because of their genetic mutilation, maybe they're not as immune as they originally were supposed to be because they were in a lab. They could have been experimented on. There's no telling what happened to them. But maybe that has something to do with why Psyduck's attack did something in the first place.
They've seen some things.
They really need to explain that further though, because that is pretty much just going to annoy everyone until something is further discussed on that matter, explaining it.
Well, I guess there is one explanation I didn't think of. If the Greninja have the ability Protean to be, which I guess it makes sense since they were laboratory, essentially hunters. Protean's probably more of a hunter ability than its default Torrent. So by using Water Shuriken, it drops the dark type just to focus on the water, so that's a possibility, but still, no explanation.
Yeah, they don't really
Actually, that is.
wholeheartedly. Oh, I'm sorry, Chris. Go ahead.
I was thinking out loud. Go ahead.
Yeah. So, but yeah, that's 100% a possibility as well because of the hidden move. Maybe these Greninja were in the lab because of their unique hidden ability. Maybe that's why they were being tested, was to see how they developed a unique hidden ability. And so that would explain a lot. So that's just about the only thing that would make sense logically in the Pokeverse. Either that, or maybe they could explain that further in, like, say, future sequels or future releases for the video games. So it's
Okay,
just,
so
yeah.
I guess on to the next nitpick. This is something I did not realize until after someone posted it online, and then after I saw that post, I was forever bothered by this. So, would you say the bad guy was stationed about on the 20 floors above the ground, or even 50 or something like that?
Yeah, he
Oh, yeah,
was pretty
pretty much.
elevated.
He was high up.
Okay, so Pikachu is around the same level outside battling controlled Mewtwo, and then at the end falls down. And you know how fast things can fall from the sky. And right there, Tim, he runs like downstairs or uses the elevator or something. And then Mewtwo gets back to its regular self right before Pikachu splats on the ground, catches Pichu with its psychic power, and then you see Tim walk out of the building. So my nitpick with that is how can like a 13-year-old boy go from like floor 20 or 50 down the same rate of Pikachu is falling?
That must have been one heck of an elevator ride. And by the way, elevators can drop like that because I've been dropped in an elevator like that, and that is scary.
Is
But
that? Yeah.
Yeah, I've never been in anything like that, so I don't really have an opinion, and I don't know why people are trying to bother me when I'm recording.
it's the thing with my elevator is it wasn't supposed to drop like that. It just stopped working. It just dropped me. And I was on the top floor, and that was scary. I don't like heights. I am very terrified of heights, just in case anybody wanted to know. Now you do. And yeah, it dropped me from the ninth floor. You may be able to handle that type of height, but I cannot. I hate heights with a passion. And it dropped me. But anyway, we're getting off topic.
So I do want to talk about one final nitpick. So throughout the entire movie, and I know it references the video game, that Tim's dad as Pikachu initially said that he has no Pikachu attacks, no electric attacks, and you've seen some attempts throughout the entire movie. And then only towards the end, barely learns how to do a little spark against him. And then not soon after that, is engaging a battle with Mewtwo, and then all of a sudden can whip out a Volt Tackle successfully. So my personal nitpick is just the progression of learning those moves and being able to successfully execute them. I felt like that was really not fluid, and I know, ironic choice of words, not realistic in the situation. But did y'all have any problem with the lack thereof progression for the electric attacks?
I really should, but I think just this whole time I've been overlooking it.
Yeah, it's one of those things I didn't really catch on to whenever I watched it. Oh, I do have one more nitpick.
Mm-hmm.
And that
I
is?
just thought about. Huh?
Oh, and that is?
Why is Flareon only in one scene and then never seen again?
Yeah, I don't get the relevancy of that scene either. And yet it was such a big deal on Pokemon Go because all my friends were just like, oh, I want to get a Flareon. It can be shiny.
All you see is an Eevee evolve into a Flareon, and that's it.
Yeah, and it never really served a deeper meaning, in my opinion. I think it was just the directors wanting to incorporate evolution in the movie, but I don't get it. I think that was just a hit and a miss.
Then
Well, I
then
mean,
do
they already did that with the Magikarp and the Gyarados.
exactly. And if you wanted to make it a character's Pokemon, make it the cop, the whatever he was, the chief, I guess, the one who had the Snubble.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Let it happen to it. Let it evolve into a Granbull. By the way, that Snubble was adorable.
Yeah, it was, but I had somebody who was pretty much chomping very loudly on their food, and I wasn't able to focus well enough on that scene.
I laugh at your pain.
No, because the whole time I'm sitting there trying to bust out my earbuds so I can drown them out. But like I'm just missing out on this whole scene because he's talking really softly and this guy's over here crunching on his food and it's like the only thing I can hear. It's like, could you stop? I know they sell food here, but I really don't approve of people eating crunchy foods in a theater.
Yeah, I can understand that.
Yeah, but there's one thing I think we're forgetting to talk about. So this was, I guess you could say, like a mild controversy before the movie even started, but it was just criticisms regarding Mr. Mime and
Oh
how
yeah.
creepy it looked, and
But
not.
that's what Mr. Mime is supposed to look. People
Yeah,
need to get over themselves.
I really don't get the complaint. As a matter of fact, I actually did an art project once where we were supposed to make these clown puppets. Well, I did a little research and I found out that mimes are actually European clowns. That is why Mr. Mime is a European regional exclusive in Pokemon Go. Um, but no, so mimes are basically European clowns, and it's because of that reason that they probably tried to make him look more clowny even though he kind of already, like, I mean, he already is, for that matter. He basically is a clown just with miming abilities. So,
And that was one of the best parts of the whole movie was that whole scene.
oh yeah, I completely laughed out of my chair with that one. That was hilarious.
oh yeah.
Right?
I was also thinking, of course, my faulty memory, but was Mr. Mime ever seen again after that scene?
No, he got blown up, remember?
Actually, that's not entirely true. That's not no, that's not true. Because you remember the Ditto. One of the forms that the Ditto took on was that Mr. Mime.
Okay, well, I mean that Mr. Mime exclusively.
That specific Mr. Mime.
Yeah, but who's to say that Mr. Mime wasn't the Ditto this whole time?
But then we wouldn't have saw it later on in the final moments.
Well,
Changing woman.
with Ditto taking on other Pokemon forms and human forms, weren't their eyes a little messed up, referencing the Ditto from the first episode we've seen it in the anime?
You know
Yes,
that that may also be true. Yeah. So you have a point there, uh, but was that also because like the eyes they didn't start doing that on the Ditto until the human merged with the Ditto.
but we only saw it whenever they took the glasses off.
Yeah, that's what I
Every
was thinking.
yeah, every character that we saw that was, I guess, the Ditto always had glasses.
Hmm. It does make you wonder. I really need to rewatch that.
But either way, so I was just wondering, did Mr. Mime actually die there?
By a pantomime explosion.
I know, right?
That's amazing. It's not amazing, but you know what I mean. Poor Mr. Mime.
Oh yeah, that was funny. I just love that because Tim he's acting like he's pouring gas on there, and then they just light the match, and then they're dumb enough to throw it over their shoulder, even though it's imaginary. And then Mr. Mime's got this look on his face, like, "Oh no!"
And Pikachu still don't know what the heck's going on.
I know. It's so nuts, so nuts. Anyway, though, I don't mean to rush or what have you, but I do kind of. I probably should hurry because I know I'm being summoned and I've got other plans for the day. So we'll just jump right into the video games.
Sure.
Okay. So
Crystal, you cool with that?
Oh yeah, I already start off by saying no comment really, just because I've only seen people play through portions of the game. But I like how apparently there's going to be some type of video game sequel coming out for the Nintendo Switch. I think that would be pretty cool, but I'll turn it over.
that is exactly what I was going to elaborate on. There is kind of a hint that they're going to be making a Detective Pikachu for the Switch. What I am hoping to see is maybe a part two, so we could do like another movie, or if they're going to just completely remake this game, they could at least remake it so that you're not repeating the last scene over and over again, because every time I get on the 3DS game, it just picks me back up from the very last scene and has me play through it till the credits, and it's like, no, that's really lame. I don't like that. So yeah, but I would love to see that. But especially though the part two, maybe they could take, say, the film itself and try to reference that, and literally just make a sequel to the film on the game, and then they can, when they make the sequel in the actual film itself, they can elaborate it in detail like they did with this one. So those some of my expectations I'm hoping to see.
Okay. I've never played the game. I've never seen a playthrough, so I have nothing.
Yeah, but I already made my comment, so without further ado, should we go into
Well,
the Pokemon of the week?
yes, we shall. And this time we did okay, I did have one thing to say, but I'll do it after the Pokemon of the week. But this week's Pokemon of the week, we're doing it again this way like we did the last time whenever it was just Crystal and me doing the podcast. And we did a random number generator, and that came out to number 526. And that Pokemon is none other than Gigalith.
Woo!
Okay, I'm glad somebody did that because I was about to.
Sorry,
Oh,
I couldn't really do a cricket sound, so.
well, you can try
Rock.
Cricketune sound.
That'd be funny.
Let's see.
That's
Gigalith is the
so.
final evolution of the Boldor line. It's rock ground, I think.
Nope, just solid rock.
Solid rock. Okay.
Without that ability. Ironic choice of words.
Ha.
But yeah, I think I'm the only one that's used it in the video games. Is that
Oh, I did too.
correct?
Yes.
I did too, actually, because
Well, I must be the lame one because I didn't.
well, I used it because it was stronger than some of the others that I had for the Elite Four. Plus, the other option I had was a Buffalo-ant, but I didn't really want to use a normal type because it has no advantages whatsoever. So I traded it out for the Boldor I got in the Victory Road, and I evolved it through trade. And so I had a Gigalift going into the Elite Four.
Okay, I'm just saying this now. What I said earlier about the episode of a podcast about pronouncing names right, we're definitely going to be doing that. Ty?
Yeah, I caught that too, but I didn't want to jump in. But
Oh, I'm jumping in. Anybody who messes up, I'm jumping in. I need
And
a
what
first
exactly did I get wrong?
Bouffalants.
Bouffalons. Not
Well, okay,
buff.
whatever. I've never heard it actually said, okay? The Unova anime was boring.
Yeah, agreed completely.
Very much so. Holy
But
crap, something we all agree on.
yeah. So well, I didn't use Gigalith until the Sun and Moon generation, just because it got a little bit of a boost in overall stats, and it picked up Sandstream because
Ooh.
prior to that it had Sturdy, which it honestly did not need because it was pretty bulky as it was. So picking up Sandstream was just genius. It's immune to it. Rock type Pokemon, um, I believe, increase their special defense when they're in a sandstorm. So,
Nice.
yeah, I think it was just genius. I took advantage of it. But my run through with Gigalith was honestly boring, so I won't use it again. But it
Good.
was very solid Pokemon. But then again, most mono rock type Pokemon are boring, in my opinion.
Not wrong.
But I recommend it for competitive battle as well because of that Sandstream ability.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, because that's almost as good as being able to poison your opponent.
Or burn.
Yeah, true.
I would say it'd be. I would say it's either it's closer to burn if you want to go at status elements because poison still does more and more each turn.
Well,
Yeah,
only if badly poisoned.
the only
Right.
negative thing I could think of, though, is after you trade Gigalith out, you'd put another Pokemon out. And if that Pokemon isn't one of the following types, it would also get hurt by the Sandstream until it goes away.
Well, there are Pokemon, like I've used Sandstorm Team once, so Rock, Steel, Ground, that is a better variety than what you would get for a Hail team, just Ice, which, of course, something Pokemon needs to fix. But,
Was that during the Weather Wars, Crystal?
wait, what?
I said, was that during the Weather Wars when you used a Sandstorm team?
Weather Wars? I'm not sure what that is,
Gen
but
5. Gen 5 meta.
oh no, not at all. I did that during Gen 6 actually.
Oh.
Yeah, but I was also using Pokemon like Sigilith that had an ability Magic Guard that can only be damaged with direct attacks. And the safety goggles are a good item to have on a Pokemon for that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Well,
the Overcoat I think is also immune to it.
Yeah, I don't really think of items a lot, but that is a good idea. Take them more into consideration. Prep for your opponents.
all right. I know, Ty, you have to be going. So one more thing, and then we're going to close out.
Okay.
So, Crystal and Ty, what would be your final ranking? Let's go, regular school grade type ranking for the Detective Pikachu movie. What would be your grade?
Okay, so we're doing like 1 through 100.
No, like A, B, C, D, or F.
Oh. Uh, well, okay, so for me though, that would definitely be an A. Probably closer to an A minus because I do feel like they could do better. But
Okay.
because it's a Pokemon movie and because of my huge admiration and anticipation and just everything else pertaining to the movie, I have no choice but to give it an A because I am still getting the Blu-ray.
Gotcha.
And Chris, I'll let you go next, and there's a reason why I'll save mine for last.
All right. And my grade is actually a B minus. There's still some things that they really should have covered that they really didn't. And plus, with the nitpicks that I had and some other stuff that Ty and Crystal went over, I just had to go B minus. So, Crystal.
With me, I have to give it a solid C. Like I said, I had a lot more nitpicks. I just went over the major ones that were just immediately on my mind. But this is coming from a Pokemon fan who has seen almost every other movie, and Like, I was moved so much by a lot of the Pokemon movies, and it was mainly the moving factor. Like, this one was not at, it didn't have that impact that most, not even just Pokemon movies, just movies in general, that it did not have on me. I mean, it was good, but if I were a non-Pokemon fan, well, not like a hater or anything, just someone neutral, like, would I have liked the movie? I honestly don't know if I would have. Like, it was just a non-impactful movie for me. But I guess my expectations were too high. But yeah, that's why I gave it a C.
I got you.
All right.
All right. So, Ty, do you want to take us out?
Yeah, sure. So don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, report us if somehow we managed to offend you, which I'm pretty sure we did a lot of that today. uh,
Crystal more so than
um,
all.
I'm proud of
and
that.
I'm sorry.
I just said I'm proud of that.
So be sure to tune in next time when we cover. I don't know what we're covering next time. What are we covering? I guess more details on Sword and Shield, hopefully. And until then, this has been the Pedal Dance Podcast.
And for myself, this is Ty and Crystal. We will see you in the next episode.